So I am an extremely competitive person. Whether it's a card game or sports or the three-legged race at a family reunion, I am always in it to win it. The problem with being that competitive is that you should probably have some sort of talent to back it up. You just assume that I don't have that talent. I don't have that talent, and typically the only thing that I win at is trash talking. So I may go down in the battle, but I'm going to go down with, is this better? But I'm going to go down in a blaze of glory. Closer like this? All right. Anyway. So I, may not win, but I'm going to at least look good while doing it. I used to play church volleyball, and I had the nickname The Train. And you have to imagine, it's a bunch of old ladies and children, and yet anytime a ball came anywhere in my vicinity, I had to lunge for it and knock whoever was in front of me out of the way. And what was sad about that is I usually wasn't lunging in the direction the ball was going. The Train was by far the most masculine name on the team until my friend Michelle spiked a ball and broke two of our bishop's fingers. And then she got the nickname Bone Crusher, and so I lost there too. Some of the most competitive things in my life are kind of these battles that I have with myself. For example, since I was a young kid, I've battled with my weight, and as you can tell, it's going swimmingly. But probably one of the most epic battles that I had was I was convinced for 24 years of my life that I was straight. And I was committed to it. Regardless of the amounts of dude-on-dude porn that I had looked at, or my prepubescent crush on the character Rufio from the 90s movie Hook, or my unhealthy obsession with Reba McEntire, I was convinced that this was all just a phase and I could be a fully functional heterosexual. I believed this because in some way I had been told this my entire life. I grew up in a very strict religious household. We were raised Mormon, and Mormons weren't gay, case closed. So that's kind of how I process things. In 2009, like most of these battles that I lost, I found myself on the losing end. I was quasi-engaged to this really nice young girl, but I knew that it wasn't going to last, and it was really starting to slide downhill. I was also in charge of the young single adults activities for a large part of Salt Lake City, and we would plan these really cool events, and I made a lot of friends, and we had a really good time doing that. One of the friends that I made was named Hannah, and you'll see why in this story, but I'm going to try really hard to use the name Hannah and not this person's real name, because I might get sued or something. But Hannah and I became friends. Hannah stood at 4 foot 11 inches, and she was a firecracker. So what she lacked in stature, she made up for in pizzazz. And she was just this really great ball of energy, but at the time, for whatever reason, she was also a huge hornball. And she was really coming into her sexual awakening at this time, and for whatever reason, she wanted to have that awakening with me. Now, I, as I said, had a girlfriend, but Hannah didn't seem to care that I had a girlfriend. And so we would hang out, and she would come over, and inevitably we would end up cuddling a little bit. We never kissed, because that would be cheating. But sometimes that cuddling would lead to dry humping. Now, most of you probably haven't done that past 15. But at 24, I was a little stunted, and so that was circling home for me. I didn't realize that. But I always used the I've got this girlfriend, or I would totally rip your clothes off right now card to get out of, doing anything too extreme with Hannah. Until I, realized that I couldn't go on living my life that way. So I ended it with this nice girl and let her go on about her life. And I eventually left the church because it just wasn't true to who I was. I posted our breakup on Facebook, as one does. And within 24 hours, Sarah was at my front door. Hannah, gosh. Edit that out. I'll just delete her from Facebook. She doesn't need to see it. Within 24 hours, Hannah was at my front door. And I have been known to exaggerate things to make a story funnier. I am not exaggerating. She took her lunch break and drove the 20 minutes to my house and knocked on my door, and I opened the door and she ran into my arms and shoved her tongue down my throat. I had just broken up with, this potential wife, and this is the experience that I was faced with. So we began to heavily make out, and then what we called in the church heavy petting. So we began to engage in heavy petting over in the couch area, and I really enjoyed it. I liked the kissing, and I liked the body-to-body contact, but that was really it. See, the factory downstairs wasn't really responding to the stimulation. And while Hannah was in the midst of her sexual awakening, she wasn't very experienced because she didn't notice that factory situation. We decided that since she was on her lunch break, we would just make out a little bit, and then she would go back to work and then come over later that night. The reason I am so competitive about this is that I was convinced, since I was 24 years old and had been raised so religiously, that maybe I wasn't gay, but just a little sexually confused. I thought, well, maybe the reason I never, I was a 24-year-old virgin. Maybe the reason I had never done anything with a girl is because I thought it would send me to hell. And now that I'm not worried about that, I'll be able to perform. So I had been thinking that in the back of my mind, and I was really gonna try hard. So as we're making out, we're on the couch and we're cuddling and dry humping, as one does, as a 24-year-old virgin. Hannah, gosh, I'm really gonna get that name. Hannah began to get a little more animated and gyrated on my leg in a very manic manner that had me concerned. You see, I liked everything we were doing, but I had no desire for it to progress past that. And just the thought of the Venus flytrap that I imagined a vagina looked like in real life was really stressing me out. I couldn't focus on what we were doing. So right as we kind of finished up what we were doing so that Hannah could go back to work, something happened that forever changed my life. Like I said, Hannah began to gyrate a little more heavily and reached her hand into her pants. And this all happened so quickly that it's a little foggy, but now I sometimes dream about it in vivid, nightmarish HD. But she pulled her hand out from her pants and put her fingers in the flight attendant point, and then wiped her fingers from my cheek, across my lips, and down to my chin in a very fluid motion that I'm sure was supposed to be sexy, and whispered, "You make me so wet." Now, what I didn't realize was as she got up, I noticed that coffee, how when you leave a glass on a coffee table and the stain, the condensation, that was Hannah's jeans at that point, and I didn't realize that it happened, and I didn't realize that what was there was also here, and I immediately had to suppress the urge to vomit. I'm still tasting it right now, actually. I tried my best to hold off, being outraged about what had happened, and I actually owe Hannah a huge debt of gratitude because it was at that moment that I knew I was gay. There was no confusing it. I made up a lot of excuses after that to not be with Hannah. Everything from, I just broke up with someone, it's too soon, to I respect you too much as a friend to do anything further. Time-old classics. And, I feel like I have lost a lot of battles when it comes to being competitive, but now I'm out, and my family and my friends accept and love me. I'm successful in my career, and I can't help to feel that even though I experienced some bumps along the way, this was a battle that I actually won.